Let me be clear from the start. This is not about pretending to be rich. This is about refusing to surrender. The moment a person looks poor, they have already accepted defeat internally. Poverty first appears in the eyes, the posture, the voice, the discipline, and only later in the wallet. Long before money disappears, belief disappears. The world does not reward potential. It rewards presentation backed by intent. People respond to how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you respect your own presence. If you signal weakness, confusion, and neglect, the world mirrors it back to you, with fewer opportunities and lower expectations. Looking poor is not about money. It is about carelessness. A careless mind creates a careless life. Order, cleanliness, confidence, and restraint cost nothing, yet most people refuse to practice them. That refusal is why they stay where they are. When you refuse to look poor, you are making a silent declaration: this is temporary. I am in transition, not defeat. That declaration shapes decisions. It sharpens focus. It forces discipline when motivation fails. Opportunities are drawn to people who look prepared, not desperate. No one invests in chaos. No one follows uncertainty. Even when you have nothing, you must carry yourself as someone who is becoming something. This is not deception. This is alignment. You are aligning your outer behavior with your inner intention. You are training your mind to expect better, demand better, and work for better. Never confuse humility with neglect. Humility is strength under control. Neglect is surrender disguised as honesty. Refuse to look poor, because every day you do, you rehearse failure. Every day you don't, you rehearse success. Your appearance, discipline, and self-respect are your first assets. Protect them fiercely until the rest catches up. Poverty begins in appearance and attitude long before it shows in the bank account. Long before money runs out, standards run out. Long before opportunity disappears, discipline disappears. What people call bad luck is often the visible result of invisible surrender. The body slouches, the eyes avoid contact, the voice loses certainty, and only later does the wallet reflect what the mind already accepted. Understand this clearly: money does not leave first. Respect leaves first. When a person stops caring how they show up, how they speak, how they carry themselves, they have already signed an internal agreement with limitation. The world doesn't punish poverty. It responds to signals, and the signal of a defeated attitude is loud, even when spoken silently. Most people misunderstand poverty. They think it is a lack of money. It is not. Poverty is a lack of order, intention, and expectation. Two people can have the same empty bank account. One is temporarily broke, the other is permanently poor. The difference is not cash, it is posture, habits, and standards. One is waiting for rescue, the other is preparing for rise. The world is brutal but honest. It does not ask what you meant to do. It reacts to what you project. If you look uncertain, you are treated as uncertain. If you look careless, you are handled carelessly. If you look defeated, you are overlooked without apology. This is not cruelty, this is reality operating without emotion. Looking poor is not about wearing expensive things, it is about neglect. Neglect of body, neglect of speech, neglect of environment, neglect of self-discipline. These are not money problems, these are decision problems. Cleanliness is free, posture costs nothing, preparedness requires only effort. Yet millions refuse to pay even that price. The dangerous lie people tell themselves is, I'll carry myself better when I succeed. That is backwards. You never rise into discipline. You rise because of discipline. The outer world follows the inner order, not the other way around. If you wait for results before respecting yourself, you will wait forever. Every successful person learned this early or learned it painfully. How you see yourself trains others how to treat you. If you treat yourself like a temporary failure, the world will make it permanent. If you treat yourself like someone in transition, doors begin to behave differently. Conversations change. Expectations shift. Opportunities appear where none existed before. Refusing to look poor is not pretending to be rich. Pretending is fragile. Discipline is solid. This is about refusing to rehearse defeat daily. Every time you show up sharp, intentional, and controlled, you reinforce an identity of competence. Identity drives behavior. Behavior compounds into results. Poverty thrives in chaos. Chaos in time management, chaos in appearance, chaos in thinking. Order is the enemy of poverty. Order forces clarity. Clarity forces decisions. Decisions force movement. Movement forces growth. That change starts with something as simple and as powerful as how you present yourself to the world. People underestimate how much opportunity is visual and behavioral before it is financial. Investors, employers, mentors, and leaders all ask the same silent question when they see you: is this person ready? Not rich. Ready. Readiness shows in composure, speech, restraint, and confidence. Desperation repels. Preparation attracts. When you look poor, you lower the ceiling of what life offers you. When you refuse to look poor, you raise expectations. First your own, then everyone else's. You stop begging silently and start negotiating with reality from a position of self-respect. This mindset demands responsibility. You cannot hide behind excuses. You cannot blame circumstances while broadcasting surrender through your habits. You either command your image and attitude, or you allow them to betray you daily. The truth is uncomfortable but liberating. No one owes you belief. You must demonstrate it first, through discipline when it's hard, through standards when it's inconvenient, through consistency when motivation disappears. Refuse to look poor, because every day you don't, you condition your mind for something higher. You tell yourself, this is not my destination. That message shapes choices, and choices shape destiny. Money will eventually follow the man or woman who refuses to collapse internally, but it never follows someone who already looks defeated. Carry yourself like someone who is on the way, not someone who has given up. That decision costs nothing, and it changes everything. The world treats you based on the signals you send, not your intentions. Reality does not pause to ask what you meant to do, what you planned to become, or how hard you tried. It reacts only to what you display, through your posture, your tone, your habits, your consistency. Intentions are invisible. Signals are not. And life is brutally literal in the way it responds to what it can see. Most people live trapped inside good intentions. They believe effort without evidence should count. They expect patience from a world that only respects clarity. They hope understanding will arrive where preparation is absent. But hope is silent, and silence is ignored. The marketplace of life rewards what is obvious, repeatable, and reliable, not what is privately desired. Every interaction you enter sends data. Before you speak, your body speaks. Before you explain, your behavior explains. Before you ask for trust, your discipline announces whether you deserve it. People decide how seriously to take you within seconds, and that decision is rarely revisited. Not because they are cruel, but because attention is scarce and certainty is valuable. You may intend to be confident, but if your voice hesitates, the signal says otherwise. You may intend to be capable, but if your actions are disorganized, the signal contradicts you. You may intend to be committed, but if your consistency collapses, the signal exposes the truth. Intentions do not override evidence. Evidence crushes intentions every time. This is why so many people feel misunderstood. They believe the world is unfair, when in reality it is simply responding accurately. Life does not misjudge, it mirrors. It reflects back the discipline you practice, the standards you tolerate, and the urgency you demonstrate. If you look uncertain, you are treated as uncertain. If you look careless, you are handled carelessly. Not because people hate you, but because signals guide decisions. Signals are created in small moments. How you show up when no one is watching, how you manage time, how you maintain order under pressure, how you speak when challenged. These are not dramatic acts, they are daily broadcasts, and the world is always tuned in. The dangerous illusion is believing that potential is enough. Potential without signals is invisible. No one invests in what cannot be verified. No one follows what feels unstable. No one trusts what appears inconsistent. The world moves toward certainty, even when that certainty is imperfect. This is why disciplined people rise faster than talented ones. Talent is silent until activated. Discipline is loud. It announces reliability. It sends the signal that effort will not collapse under stress. In environments where risk exists, business, leadership, relationships, Signals of stability outweigh raw ability. You do not convince the world with explanations. You convince it with patterns. One strong day means nothing. Repetiti on builds belief. Consistency becomes reputation. Reputation determines access. Access determines opportunity. That entire chain begins with the signals you send before you ever ask for anything. When people say, they didn't give me a chance, what they often mean is, my signals didn't justify one. That is uncomfortable to accept because it removes the comfort of blame. But it also restores control. If outcomes respond to signals, then signals can be changed. Changing signals requires responsibility. It means aligning behavior with intention instead of hoping intention will excuse behavior. It means removing contradictions between what you say and what you do. It means understanding that every excuse weakens your signal, and every act of discipline strengthens it. The world is not inspired by words. It is persuaded by alignment. When your actions, habits, and presence agree with your stated goals, resistance drops. Doors open quietly. Trust forms without negotiation. You stop chasing validation because your signals do the work for you. This is not about manipulation. It is about integrity. Integrity is when intention and behavior match. And when they match consistently, the world responds differently. Not because it suddenly believes in you, but because you have become believable. You cannot demand better treatment while broadcasting confusion. You cannot expect opportunity while signaling hesitation. You cannot ask for leadership while avoiding responsibility. The world reads what you project and answers accordingly. The moment you accept this, you gain power. No more waiting to be understood. No more explaining your worth. No more hoping effort will be noticed. You focus instead on refining what you send out. Clarity, discipline, confidence, and consistency. Intentions may comfort you at night. Signals decide your future during the day. Choose what you broadcast. Carefully, because the world is always responding. Looking poor is often a sign of mental surrender, not financial reality. Long before money disappears, standards disappear. Long before resources run dry, discipline weakens. What most people call being broke is frequently a visible confession that they have stopped demanding more from themselves. The bank account may be empty, but the real loss happened earlier, in the mind. Financial struggle does not automatically produce neglect. Many people have little and still carry themselves with precision, control, and self-respect. They understand something others miss. Poverty is not proven by numbers, it is revealed by behavior. When effort fades, posture collapses, speech becomes careless, and routines decay, that is not lack of money. That is surrender. Mental surrender is subtle. It does not announce itself loudly. It whispers. It says, this is just how things are. It says, there's no point trying today. It says, I'll fix this later when life improves. Those thoughts slowly erode standards, and once standards fall, appearance follows. Not expensive appearance, intentional appearance. Clean becomes optional. Order becomes unnecessary. Pride becomes arrogance in disguise, and neglect is justified as honesty. People confuse authenticity with carelessness. They say, this is the real me, when what they mean is, I'm tired of resisting decline. Authenticity is not the absence of effort, it is the alignment of effort with values. When values weaken, effort disappears. That disappearance shows up externally, even when finances have not yet collapsed. The world reads these signs clearly. It does not ask whether your situation is temporary or permanent. It reacts to what it sees. When someone looks mentally surrendered, opportunities bypass them quietly, not out of cruelty, but out of risk avoidance. No one entru. Responsibility to someone who appears to have abandoned control. Looking poor is rarely about lacking money. It is about lacking intention. Intention to prepare, intention to maintain, intention to respect the space you occupy. These things require energy, not wealth. And when energy is withdrawn, it signals that the person has accepted limitation as identity. The most dangerous moment is when surrender feels reasonable, when neglect feels logical, when standards feel unnecessary because no one is watching. That is when decline accelerates. Because the habits you practice in private become the signals you broadcast in public. Mental surrender creates a loop. Lower standards produce weaker behavior. Weaker behavior produces worse outcomes. Worse outcomes justify lower standards. And the cycle tightens. Eventually, financial reality catches up to the mental one, not as a surprise, but as a confirmation of what was already decided internally. But the opposite is also true. Refusing to look poor is not denial, it is resistance. It is the refusal to let circumstance dictate identity. It is the discipline to maintain order when chaos would be easier. It is the decision to carry yourself like someone who is passing through difficulty, not living in it. This resistance builds momentum. Order sharpens thinking. Clear thinking produces better decisions. Better decisions slowly alter results. The transformation begins not with money but with standards. Standards are the bridge between mindset and material change. Many people wait for financial improvement before improving themselves. That wait becomes permanent. Growth does not reward patience without action. It rewards alignment. When your behavior reflects confidence in a better future, your mind begins to cooperate with that future. Mental surrender tells the mind, this is enough. Resistance tells it, this is tempo. Rarely. One freezes progress. The other demands movement. One shrinks possibility. The other stretches it. Looking poor is not humility. Humility is strength under control. Looking poor is strength abandoned. It is potential left unattended, and unattended potential does not stay neutral. It decays. The harsh truth is this: no one can rescue someone who has already given up internally. Help sticks only to those who are still holding themselves together. Discipline signals readiness. Neglect signals risk. The world responds accordingly. Every day you choose how you show up, you are choosing whether to reinforce surrender or resistance. No speech, no dream, no intention can override that choice. You do not need money to look sharp, focused, and composed. You need decision. You need refusal. You need the courage to maintain standards when they feel pointless. That refusal is not cosmetic. It is strategic. It keeps the mind in fighting condition. And a mind that is not surrendered will eventually find a way out, because poverty that lives only in numbers can be temporary. Poverty that lives in the mind becomes permanent. Self-respect is visible before success arrives. Strong starts line expend it, and don't heading in 800 words. Self-respect is visible before success arrives, long before results appear, before recognition, before validation. There are signals that announce who is coming, and those signals are never financial. They are behavioral. They show up in how a person speaks when no reward is guaranteed, how they carry themselves when no one is watching, and how they treat their own standards, when cutting corners would be easier. Most people believe success creates self-respect. That belief is backwards and costly. Success does not install discipline, order, or integrity. It reveals whether they were already there. The habits you practice while unnoticed are the same habits that will govern you when you are seen. If self-respect is missing in obscurity, it will not magically appear in spotlight. Self-respect is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not beg for attention. It is visible because it is consistent. It appears in punctuality, in preparation, in restraint. It shows in the refusal to complain publicly while doing nothing privately. It shows in the way someone protects their time, their word, and their focus. The world responds to self-respect instinctively. People trust those who demonstrate control. They listen to those who move with intention. They invest in those who clearly invest in themselves, not because it feels nice, but because self-respect reduces risk. It signals reliability. It suggests that effort will not collapse under pressure. Many people misunderstand confidence and mistake it for loudness. True self-respect does not need volume. It does not chase approval. It does not over-explain. It does not perform desperation. It allows silence to work because silence backed by discipline is powerful. Before success arrives, self-respect is tested constantly. It is tested when excuses are available. It is tested when no one is rewarding effort. It is tested when shortcuts promise faster relief. Those moments are where identity is decided. Every time a person chooses standards over convenience, they reinforce an internal authority that later becomes external credibility. Self-respect shapes choices. Choices shape habits. Habits shape outcomes. This chain is invisible to those who only watch results, but it is obvious to those who understand growth. You can often predict who will succeed simply by observing how they behave when success is absent. People who lack self-respect broadcast it without words. They interrupt themselves. They arrive unprepared. They allow disorder to dominate their environment. They explain instead of execute. None of this is caused by lack of ability. It is caused by lack of internal command. The uncomfortable truth is that no one will take you more seriously than you take yourself. You cannot demand respect while violating your own standards daily. The world does not negotiate with contradiction. It mirrors it. Self-respect is not arrogance. Arrogance is insecurity with noise. Self-respect is stability without performance. It does not inflate identity, it grounds it. It allows a person to improve without collapsing and to be corrected without resentment. When self-respect is present, struggle does not degrade character, it sharpens it. Failure becomes information, not identity. Delay becomes preparation, not discouragement. This mental posture is what allows people to persist long enough for results to catch up. The absence of success is not an excuse to lower standards. It is the reason to raise them, because standards create momentum, and momentum attracts opportunity. No one mentors chaos. No one funds carelessness. No one follows inconsistency. Self-respect shows before success because success is built on trust, and trust begins with self-trust. When a person keeps their word to themselves, they signal to the world that they can keep it to others. This is why some people with little command attention, while others with more are ignored. Presence is not purchased. It is practiced. And presence is rooted in self-respect. Every day you either reinforce it or erode it, through what you tolerate, through what you postpone, through what you excuse. Those decisions accumulate silently until the results appear publicly. By the time success arrives, self-respect is no longer a goal. It is already a habit, and habits do not break under pressure. They reveal themselves. So if success feels distant, do not ask what you lack externally. Ask what you are tolerating internally. Because when self-respect is visible, success is only a matter of time. Discipline in small things creates belief in big outcomes. Before ambition feels real, before confidence feels justified, before success feels possible, belief is constructed quietly through repetition. Not through grand declarations, not through motivation, not through vision boards, but through small, controlled actions done when they feel insignificant. Most people wait to believe before they act. That wait destroys them. Belief is not the starting point, it is the byproduct. You do not wake up convinced you can win. You earn that conviction by keeping promises to yourself when no one is watching, and no reward is guaranteed. Every small act of discipline is a vote for the person you are becoming. The mind does not trust words, it trusts evidence. When you say you want more but fail to execute on minor commitments, your mind learns a brutal lesson. Your intentions are unreliable. Over time, this erodes confidence. Big goals begin to feel unrealistic not because they are impossible, but because your internal credibility is damaged. Small disciplines repair that credibility. Waking up when you said you would, finishing what you start, maintaining order when chaos would be easier. These actions seem trivial, but they send a powerful message inward. I do what I decide. That message compounds. The mind begins to cooperate. Doubt loses authority. This is why people with massive potential feel paralyzed. They chase big outcomes without building the behavioral foundation required to believe in them. They want confidence without consistency, vision without structure, results without restraint. The mind rejects that fantasy and replaces it with hesitation. Discipline removes hesitation. It simplifies decision-making. When routines are set, energy is conserved. Focus sharpens. Progress becomes predictable. And predictability builds belief. You stop wondering if you can do hard things because you have already proven it. In small ways every day, there is nothing glamorous about small discipline. That is precisely why it works. It filters out those addicted to excitement. It favors those willing to be bored, repetitive, and uncomfortable. Over time, that willingness separates professionals from dreamers. Big outcomes require trust from partners, teams, investors, and life itself. Trust is built on reliability. Reliability is built on small, consistent actions. No one trusts a person who collapses on details to handle responsibility at scale. The universe follows the same logic. People often ask how to stay motivated for large goals. The answer is simple and unpopular: you don't. Motivation is volatile. Discipline is stable. You design systems that function regardless of mood. When emotion fades, structure remains. That structure carries you forward. Small discipline also teaches patience. You learn that progress is layered, not explosive. You stop chasing shortcuts, because shortcuts bypass belief. When belief is bypassed, pressure breaks you. Those who rise fast without discipline fall faster under stress. Every successful individual understands this, whether consciously or not. They trust themselves because they have a long history of execution. That history did not begin with big wins. It began with small, uncelebrated decisions repeated relentlessly. When discipline is absent, the opposite occurs. Inconsistency breeds self-doubt. Self-doubt breeds procrastination. Procrastination breeds regret. Regret then poisons ambition. The person concludes they are not built for this, when in reality they were simply untrained. Belief is a muscle. Small discipline is the weight. Skip the weight, and belief stays weak. Apply it daily, and belief becomes unshakable. The irony is that once belief is strong, big outcomes feel inevitable. Not guaranteed, inevitable. Because you know how you operate under pressure, you have proof. You are no longer gambling on hope. You are relying on habit. Discipline in small things is not about control. It is about identity. You become someone who finishes, someone who shows up, someone who follows through. That identity carries into every arena. By the time big outcomes arrive, belief is no longer a question. It is already built into your nervous system. And nothing is more dangerous or more unstoppable than a person who trusts themselves completely. Opportunity moves toward confidence, not excuses. Life does not pause to analyze your reasons, your background, or your disadvantages. It responds to what you project. Confidence signals readiness. Excuses signal risk. And in a world driven by speed and decision, risk is avoided without apology. Most people believe opportunity is blind or fair. It is neither. Opportunity is selective. It scans for stability, certainty, and follow-through. When confidence is present, people lean in. When excuses appear, attention pulls back. This happens instantly, often subconsciously, and it happens everywhere. In business, relationships, leadership, and growth, excuses are not just explanations. They are broadcasts. They announce hesitation. They reveal dependence on conditions. They expose a person who requires comfort before performance. Opportunity does not negotiate with comfort. It demands commitment first and clarity. Second, confidence, on the other hand, is not loud or arrogant. It is grounded. It is the calm belief that problems will be handled, not avoided. It tells the world, "I'll figure it out." That sentence alone separates those who are trusted from those who are tolerated. People often confuse confidence with certainty about outcomes. That is wrong. Confidence is certainty about self, not results. It is the belief that whatever happens can be managed. That belief attracts responsibility. Responsibility attracts opportunity. Excuses repel because they transfer power away from the individual. They say, "I can't because something else controls me." Opportunity does not move toward people who surrender control. It moves toward those who claim it. This is why two people with equal talent receive different chances. One explains, the other commits. One justifies delays, the other adapts. One waits for permission, the other acts. Opportunity does not reward potential, it rewards posture. Confidence simplifies decisions for others. When someone stands firm, prepared, and decisive, choosing them feels safe. When someone hesitates, over-explains, or qualifies themselves, choosing them feels like a gamble. In competitive environments, safety wins. The tragedy is that excuses often sound reasonable. They are logical. They are true. But truth does not equal usefulness. You can be right and still be rejected. The world does not ask whether your excuse makes sense. It asks whether you can deliver despite it. Confidence grows from action, not affirmation. Every time you act without perfect conditions, you strengthen it. Every time you wait for comfort, you weaken it. Over time, this gap becomes visible. One person looks capable, the other looks conditional. Opportunity moves quickly. It does not wait for readiness, it tests for it. When it appears, it expects movement. Excuses slow movement. Confidence accelerates it. This is why people who complain about being overlooked often are. Not because they lack ability, but because their communication signals hesitation. They appear uncertain, overloaded, or dependent on circumstances aligning perfectly. Opportunity avoids friction. Confidence also absorbs pressure. When problems arise, confident individuals do not collapse into explanation. They move into solution. That response builds trust. Trust multiplies opportunity. You do not need to eliminate obstacles to be confident. You need to eliminate the habit of announcing them. Handle them quietly. Adapt quickly. Show progress instead of reasons. Every excuse you voice teaches others how much weight you can carry. Every confident action teaches them how much responsibility you deserve. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means refusing to be defined by it. Reality is acknowledged internally and managed externally. Opportunity responds to that composure. In the end, opportunity is not generous or cruel. It is efficient. It flows toward those who appear ready to move with it. Confidence opens doors without asking. Excuses close them while explaining why. Choose carefully which one you practice, because the world is always watching and it always responds. You don't rise to what you desire, you fall to what you accept. Desire is cheap. Everyone wants more. Everyone imagines a better life. Everyone dreams in private. But desire has no gravity. It does not pull you upward. What pulls you down, relentlessly and quietly, are the standards you tolerate and the limits you stop resisting. Most people think wanting something badly is enough. They mistake intensity of emotion for commitment of behavior. But desire without discipline is nothing more than entertainment for the mind. It creates comfort without change. Acceptance, on the other hand, is active. It shapes identity. Whatever you accept repeatedly becomes normal. Whatever becomes normal becomes permanent. You do not drift upward. You drift downward, left unat. Ended standards erode. Effort relaxes. Sharpness dulls. This is not failure. It is gravity. The only way to rise is through deliberate resistance. And resistance requires refusing to accept conditions that do not align with who you intend to become. Acceptance is not always obvious. It rarely looks like surrender at first. It looks like compromise. Just for now. This is fine. I'll deal with it later. These phrases are quiet agreements with limitation. Over time, they stack. The life you wake up in years later is built not from bold decisions, but from tolerated conditions. People ask why their lives don't match their dreams. The answer is uncomfortable. Their daily standards do not match their desires. You cannot want excellence while accepting disorder. You cannot want confidence while accepting hesitation. You cannot want freedom while accepting excuses. The environment you tolerate shapes the behavior you repeat. The behavior you repeat shapes the identity you live. Desire has no power in that chain. Acceptance does. This is why two people with the same ambition end up in completely different places. One refuses to live below their standards. The other adjusts their standards to fit their situation. One experiences friction. The other experiences comfort. Comfort wins in the short term and destroys in the long term. Acceptance is seductive because it feels rational. It reduces tension. It avoids confrontation. It offers relief. But relief is not progress. Relief trades future growth for present ease, and every time you make that trade, you move farther from what you claim to want. Rising requires pressure. Pressure comes from holding yourself to standards that are inconvenient. It requires saying no when yes would be easier. It requires maintaining discipline when no one is enforcing it. It requires self-respect when self-pity would feel justified. People do not fail because they lack desire. They fail because they accept patterns that contradict it. They accept chaos and wonder why they feel stuck. They accept mediocrity and wonder why excellence feels out of reach. They accept inconsistency and wonder why confidence never arrives. You cannot negotiate with acceptance. It always wins. The moment you stop resisting, it settles in. It becomes your baseline. And baselines define outcomes. Look closely at your life and you will see proof, not of what you want, but of what you have allowed. Your relationships reflect what you accept emotionally. Your income reflects what you accept professionally. Your health reflects what you accept physically. There is no mystery. There is only alignment. The lie is believing that change begins with wanting more. Change begins with refusing less, refusing disrespect, refusing disorder, refusing excuses, refusing to live below your potential while calling it realism. This refusal is uncomfortable. It creates friction with people, habits, and even your own mind. But that friction is the price of elevation. You cannot rise without pushing against something. You don't need stronger desires. You need higher standards. You need to decide what is no longer acceptable and enforce it consistently, because in the end, your life will not reflect your dreams. It will reflect your tolerances, and whatever you accept long enough, you eventually become. Order, cleanliness, and posture are free, yet most people stay sloppy, not because they lack money, time, or knowledge, but because they lack standards. Sloppiness is rarely a resource problem. It is a decision problem, and every decision to tolerate disorder quietly trains the mind to accept decline as normal. Disorder does not arrive suddenly. It accumulates. One ignored mess, one missed routine, one careless habit. Each seems harmless alone. Toj. Third, they create an environment that drains focus, weakens discipline, and lowers expectation. People underestimate how much their surroundings shape their thinking. Chaos outside breeds chaos inside. Order is not about perfection. It is about control. When your environment is intentional, your mind feels anchored. When things are in their place, decisions take less energy. Attention sharpens. Momentum becomes easier to maintain. Cleanliness removes friction you didn't realize you were carrying. Most people stay sloppy because sloppiness feels honest. It feels like real life. They tell themselves they'll get organized once things improve, but improvement does not arrive first. Order does. Order creates the conditions for improvement. Without it, effort leaks in every direction. Posture is the most ignored signal of all. It costs nothing, yet it shapes identity instantly. A slouched body tells the mind to retreat. A straight spine signals readiness. This is not psychology theory, it is biology. The body informs the mind how to behave. Weak posture invites weak thought. Controlled posture reinforces authority. Cleanliness is not cosmetic. It is behavioral discipline made visible. When you keep yourself and your space clean, you demonstrate restraint and care. That care spills into work, relationships, and decision-making. Neglect spreads just as easily, and much faster. People often confuse sloppiness with creativity or freedom. In reality, sloppiness is avoidance. It avoids responsibility for the small things. But small things are where discipline is built. Ignore them, and the larger ones collapse under pressure. Order reveals intent. When your surroundings are deliberate, it tells the world and your own mind that you expect things to work. That expectation shifts how you act. You move with purpose. You prepare instead of react. You stop wasting energy on trivial corrections. Sloppiness feels comfortable because it lowers the bar. It removes pressure. It allows excuses. Order raises standards. It demands maintenance. That demand repels those addicted to ease and attracts those serious about progress. No one is inspired by chaos. No one trusts disorder. When opportunity evaluates risk, it looks for signals of control. Order is one of the clearest signals available. It requires no explanation. It simply exists. People wonder why they feel stuck while living in environments that constantly distract them. They attempt to think clearly, while surrounded by neglect. They attempt to act decisively while broadcasting indecision through their habits. The contradiction sabotages them daily. Cleanliness also builds momentum. It is a small win that reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who handles things. That identity strengthens confidence. Confidence sharpens execution. Execution compounds. Sloppiness erodes self-respect. Each tolerated mess whispers, "This is fine." Over time, that whisper becomes belief, and belief shapes outcomes. Order is a form of self-leadership. You command your space before you command your circumstances. You prove you can manage details before demanding bigger responsibilities. The excuse is always the same: no time, no energy, no point. But discipline is not about time. It is about priority. What you maintain reflects what you value. Order, cleanliness, and posture are free. That is precisely why they are ignored. There is no external pressure forcing them. Only internal standards enforce them. Those who rise adopt these disciplines early, not because they guarantee success, but because they prevent collapse. Sloppiness is silent sabotage. Order is quiet power, and the choice between them is made every single day. Your outer world eventually obeys your inner self-image, not immediately, not magically, and not without resistance, but inevitably. Life does not respond to what you hope for or what you say you want. It responds to who you believe you are. That belief quietly dictates what you attempt, what you tolerate, and what you repeat. Over time, repetition hardens into reality. Self-image is not positive thinking, it is expectation. It is the internal standard that decides what feels normal to you, and the mind works tirelessly to protect what feels normal, even when normal is painful. This is why people remain stuck in situations they claim to hate. Each situation matches their internal identity. You do not rise above your self-image. You act in alignment with it. When success challenges it, you sabotage. When opportunity contradicts it, you hesitate. When responsibility exceeds it, you retreat. This is not weakness. It is consistency. The mind resists anything that threatens its sense of identity. Most people try to change their lives by changing circumstances. They switch jobs, relationships, cities, routines, but carry the same self-image with them. The result is familiar disappointment in a new environment. The inner blueprint remains unchanged, so the outer structure rebuilds itself the same way. Self-image is built through evidence. Not affirmations, not slogans, not motivation. Evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens it. Every excuse you accept weakens it. Over time, the mind draws conclusions. Those conclusions become limits. This is why two people in identical circumstances experience different outcomes. One expects progress. The other expects struggle. Their behaviors adjust accordingly. One prepares. The other reacts. One persists. The other explains. The outer world responds to those patterns, not the starting point. Your self-image governs your comfort zone. It defines what you believe you deserve, what you believe you can handle, and how much effort feels justified. Anything above that range feels unsafe, so you unconsciously shrink your actions to fit your identity. Change begins when behavior challenges identity. Small acts of discipline send new evidence. The mind resists at first. It feels unnatural. That discomfort is proof that growth is occurring. Stay consistent, and the identity updates. When the identity updates, behavior stabilizes. When behavior stabilizes, results change. People often wait for confidence before acting, but confidence is the effect, not the cause. Acting in alignment with a higher standard forces the mind to adjust its self-image upward. This adjustment then unlocks new levels of performance. The outer world is slow but honest. It does not reward intention. It mirrors repetition. When you repeatedly show up as someone capable, prepared, and disciplined, the world adjusts. Opportunities align, expectations rise, resistance fades. Self-image also determines what you accept. Disrespect, chaos, and limitation persist only when they feel familiar. Raise your self-image, and those conditions become intolerable. You stop negotiating with what once controlled you. This is why transformation feels uncomfortable. You are violating an old identity. The mind interprets that as danger. Most people retreat at this point and call it realism. In truth, it is fear of unfamiliar self-respect. The danger of a low self-image is not failure. It is self-sabotage. You sabotage what you secretly believe you are not worthy of. You sabotage consistency because success would challenge your identity. This is why knowledge alone does nothing. Identity overrides information. Your outer world is not punishing you. It is obeying you. It is faithfully executing the instructions encoded in your behavior. Change the instructions and the execution changes. This does not happen overnight. It happens through relentless alignment, through standards maintained without applause, through discipline practiced without reward, through identity earned, not imagined. Eventually, the outer world catches up, not because it had a choice, but because it had no other instruction to follow. Refusing to look poor is a declaration of future ownership, not deception. It is not about pretending to have what you do not. It is about refusing to surrender your identity to temporary circumstances. Deception tries to fool others. Declaration trains the self, and the difference. Between the two is discipline. People confuse dignity with dishonesty. They assume that if your situation is difficult, your appearance, habits, and posture must reflect that difficulty. That assumption is false and destructive. Hard times do not require public collapse. They require internal control. Looking poor is not defined by income. It is defined by neglect. Neglect of standards, neglect of order, neglect of self-respect. These things cost nothing, yet most abandon them the moment pressure arrives. That abandonment sends a message, first to the self, then to the world, that the fight is over. Refusal is powerful because it interrupts that message. When you refuse to look poor, you are not lying about your present. You are committing to your future. You are saying, this condition does not define me.